I'm going to show you a quick and simple way to center a block level HTML DOM element both vertically and horizontally using CSS native grids. I currently have 5 browsers open: Chrome, Firefox, Brave, Microsoft Edge for the Mac. I'm obviously on the Mac, and of course, Safari. All 5 browsers are consuming the same view from the same server. The code is exactly the same. And just to test that it's completely responsive, okay, so that's Chrome. Let's try Brave. Okay. Let's try this one. Okay, so it's responsive. Okay, now going back to Chrome, let's look at mobile view in Chrome. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to pop this out. Okay, I'm going to okay, so looking at iPhone 5s. Okay, still center. iPhone 10. Okay, let's try the iPad. Okay, let's try Galaxy. Okay, refresh, make sure it's still center. And let's try the Pixel XL. Okay, all right, I'll be back in a second to show you how to do this. The markup is very simple. I have a div with a class called container and a header in there. So this part is optional. I just sort of want to reset everything under the universal and HTML tag, which is the top level, the 2 top level. I prefer the border box model. So I'm going to go box sizing. Let's do border box. Again, this is optional. You don't need to do this, but I sort of like just reset everything. And then heading 0. Okay. And you're going to do box sizing. Make sure you do it at the highest, the high level to make it consistent throughout the document. Okay, so we're going to go with the native CSS grid approach. Okay, pretty easy, right? And so if you look at the documentation for grid, okay, it has a concept of place item, which is a shorthand. And you can look at the documentation here. Well, this is one of the places where you can look at the documentation for CSS grid, among others, okay? So this is a shorthand. I'm going to say place items. By the way, if you're using VS Code, you actually get metadata. See that? And if you hover on it, it'll give you, describe what the property does. Okay? In case you forget. I don't recommend memorizing everything, right? Just sort of like know the top level information and then come back to documentation if you need more information on it. Okay. Now, if I were to save this right now, it only center this horizontally. Okay. Why does it do that? Well, I have not specified the height of the document yet. Okay. So for that, what I like to specify at a very high level is a min height, which is the minimal height that I want the view to be. And I like to use a unit called view, I use view height, which is part of the viewport property. Okay, and I want this to render the minimum height to be 100% of the view height available. Okay, and there you have it. To read more on the concept of the viewports, you can read about that here. This is one of the places that you can read the documentation on the concept of viewports, which includes view heights and view widths. I like the view height and view width unit measurement because it's dynamic. Okay, because you have no idea what screen size your end user would be using. So therefore, you want this approach to be declarative and not imperative. Um, the reason why I choose CSS native grids versus Flexbox is because grid give you the x-axis as well as the y-axis, so it handles it. Uh, CSS grid handle both axes, whereas the Flexbox only one axis, either or. But that isn't to say that you cannot do this using the Flexbox model. In fact, you can, before the native grid and the Flexbox was introduced into CSS 3, there was a long verbose way to do this, which was kind of hacky. I don't recommend going with that approach. So if, let's say I want to do this with Flexbox, here's how I would do it. Again, I recommend using CSS native grid, but for whatever reason you want to know how to do it in Flexbox, I'll demonstrate here for you. Let's make sure we reset everything, okay? Flexbox, Flex, okay, I'm going to save, and it should go back to being left aligned, okay? And then I'm going to say justify content. I'm going to say center, okay, or that will center it on the axis, and I need to align the items. That's also going to be center, okay? Again, if I were to save this, it still won't work, right? Because I need to specify the height. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say minimal height, 100 view height. Now, you don't necessarily have to use viewports. You can use rem, pixel, whatever, but I prefer the viewport approach because I want things to be dynamic. All right, if this was helpful, please consider subscribing. If you are already a subscriber, thank you for being a subscriber. See you next time.